Chapter 3. Now, as to Nauda of the Silver Hand, he was holding a great feast at Tavere one time after he was back in the kingship, and there were two doorkeepers at Tavere, Gamal, son of Faigal, and Camille, son of Raigal. And a younger man came to the door where one of them was, and bade him bring him to the king. "Who are you yourself?" said the doorkeeper. "I am Lugh, son of Cian of the Tuatha and of Ithlian, daughter of Balor, king of the Fomor," he said. "And I am foster son to Talti, daughter of the king of the great plain, and of Yochid the rough, son of Duch." "What are you skilled in?" said the doorkeeper then, "for no one without an art comes into Tavere." "Question me," said Lugh. "I am a carpenter." "We do not want you. We have a carpenter ourselves, Lugh, son of Luchid." "Then I am a smith," said Lugh. "We have a smith ourselves, Curum Curamech of the Three New Ways." "Then I am a champion," said Lugh. "That is no use to us. We have a champion before, Ogma, brother to the king." "Question me again," said Lugh. "I am a harper." "That is no use to us. We have a harper ourselves, Avian, son of Bergmos, that the men of the three great gods brought from the hills." "I am a poet then," said Lugh, "and a teller of tales." "That is no use to us. We have a teller of tales ourselves, Erk, son of Ertman." "I am a magician," said Lugh. "That is no use to us. We have plenty of musicians and people of power." "I am a physician then," said Lugh. "That is no use to us. We have Dian Keith for our physician." "Let me be a cupbearer then," said Lugh. "We do not want you. We have 9 cupbearers ourselves." "I am a good worker in brass," said Lugh. "We have a worker in brass ourselves, that is Creed Curd." Then Lugh said, "Go and ask the king if he has any one man that can do all of those things, and if he has, I will not ask to come into Tavere." The doorkeeper went into the king's house then, and told him all that. "There is a young man at the door," he said, "and his name should be Ildanach, the master of all arts. For all the things the people of your house can do, he himself is able to do every one of them." "Try him with the chessboards," said Nauda. So the chessboards were brought out, and every game that was played, Lugh won it. And when Nauda was told that, he said, "Let him in, for the like of him never came into Tavere before." Then the doorkeeper let him pass, and he came to the king's house and sat down in the seat of knowledge, and there was a great flagstone there that could hardly be moved by 4 times 20 oxen, and Ogma took it up and hurled it out through the house, so that it lay on the outside of Tavere, as a challenge to Lugh. But Lugh hurled it back again, that it lay in the middle of the king's house. He played the harp for them then, and he had them laughing and crying till he put them asleep at the end with a sleepy tune. And when Nauda saw all the things that Lugh could do, he began to think that by his help the country might get free from the taxes and the tyranny put on it by the Fomor. And it is what he did. He came down from his throne, and he put Lugh on it in his place for the length of 13 days, the way they might all listen to the advice he would give. This now is the story of the birth of Lugh. The time the Fomor used to be coming to Ireland, Balor of the Strong Blows, or as some call him, of the Evil Eye, was living in the island of the Tower of Glass. There was danger for ships that went near that island, for the Fomor would come out and take them. And some say that the sons of the Maid, in the olden times, before the Firbolg were in Ireland, passed near it in their ships, and what they saw was a tower of glass in the middle of the sea, and on the tower something that had the appearance of men. And they went against it with druid spells to attack it, and the Fomor worked against them with druid spells of their own. And the sons of Nemead attacked the tower, and it vanished, and they thought that it was destroyed. But a great wave rose over them, and all their ships went down, and all that were in them with it. And the tower was there as it was before, and Balor living in it, and it is the reason he is called of the evil eye. There was a power of death in one of his eyes, so that no person could look at it and live. It is the way he got that power. He was passing one time by a house where his father's druids were making spells of death, and the window being open, he looked into it, and the smoke of the poisonous spells was rising up, and it went into one of his eyes. And from that time he had to keep it closed, unless he wanted to be the death of some enemy, and then the men that were with him would lift the eyelid with a ring of ivory. Now a druid foretold one time that it was by his own grandson he would get his death, and he had at that time but one child, a daughter whose name was Ethlion, and when he heard what the druid said, he shut her up in a tower on the island. And he put 12 women with herself to take charge of her and to guard her, and he bade them never to let her see a man, or even hear the name of a man. So Ethlion was brought up in the tower, and she grew to be a very beautiful woman, and sometimes she would see men passing in their crags, and sometimes she would see a man in her dreams, but when she would speak of that to the women, they would give her no answer. So there was no fear on Balor, and he went on with his robbery and his war as he was used to, seizing every ship that passed by, and sometimes going over to Ireland to do destruction there. Now it chanced that time there were 3 brothers of the Tuatha living together in a place that was called Drum Natian, the Ridge of Fire. Their names were Gaivnu and Sathian and Cian. Cian was the lord of land, and Gaivnu was the smith that had such a great name. Now Cian had a wonderful cow, the Glos Gaivnian, and her milk never failed, and every one that heard of her coveted her, and many tried to steal her away, so that she had to be watched night and day. And one time Cian was wanting some swords made, and he went to Gaivnu's forge, and he brought the Glos Gaivnian with him, holding her by the halter. When he came to the forge, his 2 brothers were there together, for Sathian had brought some steel to have weapons made for himself, and Cian bade Sathian to hold the halter while he went into the forge to speak with Gaivnu. Now Balor had set his mind for a long time on the Glos Gaivnian, but he had never been able to get near to her up until this time. And he was watching not far off, and when he saw Sathian holding the cow, he put on the appearance of a little boy, having red hair, and came up to him and told him that he heard his 2 brothers that were in the forge saying one to another that they would use all of his steel for their own swords, and make his with iron. By my word, said Sathian, they will not deceive me so easily. Let you hold the cow now, little lad, he said, and I will go into them. With that he rushed into the forge, and great anger upon him. And no sooner did Balor get the halter in his hand than he set out, dragging the Glos along with him, to the strand and across the sea to his own island. When Cian saw his brother coming in, he rushed out, and there he saw Balor and the Glos out in the sea. And he had nothing to do then but to reproach his brother, and to wander about as if his wits had left him, not knowing what way to get his cow back from Balor. At last he went to a druid to ask an advice from him, and it is what the druid told him, that so long as Balor lived, the cow would never be brought back, for no one would go within reach of his evil eye. Cian went then to a woman druid, by Lugh of the mountain, for her help, and she dressed him in a woman's clothes, and brought him across the sea in a blast of wind to the tower where Ethlion was. And she called to the women in the tower, and asked them for shelter for a high queen she was after saving from some hardship. And the women in the tower did not like to refuse a woman of the Tuatha, and they let her in. Then by Lugh, by her enchantments, put them all into a deep sleep. And Cian went to speak with Ethlion, and when she saw him, she said that was the face she had seen in her dreams. So she gave him her love, but after a while he was brought away again on a blast of wind. And when her time was come, Athalion gave birth to a son. And when Balor knew that, he bade his people to put the child in a cloth, and to fasten it with a pin, and throw him into a current of the sea. And as they were carrying the child across an arm of the sea, the pin dropped out, and the child slipped from the cloth into the water, and they thought that he was drowned. But he was brought away by Rug of the mountain, and she brought him to his father Cian, and he gave him to be fostered up by Terti, daughter of the king of the great plain, and it is thus Lugh was born and reared. And some say Balor came and struck the head off of Cian on a white stone that had the blood marks on it to this day, but it is likely it was some other man he struck the head off of, for it was by the sons of Tiraon that Cian came to his death. And after Lugh had come to Tver, he made his mind up to join with his father's people against the Fomor, and he put his mind to work. And he went to a quiet place in Gralach Gilead, with Nauda and Adagda, and with Ogma. And Gaivnu and Dayan Keith were called to them there. A full year they stopped there, making their plans together in secret, the way the Fomor would not know they were going to rise up against them till such a time as all would be ready, until they would know what their strength was. And it was from that council the place got the name afterwards of the Whisperer of the Men of Dea. And they brought up the council, and agreed to meet again that day 3 years later, and every one of them went to his own way, and Lugh went back to his friends, the sons of Manannam. And it is a good while after that, Nauda was holding a great assembly of the people of the hill of Usnach on the west side of Tver, and they were not long there before he saw an armed troop coming towards them from the east over the plain, and there was a young man in command over the rest, and the brightness of his face was like the setting sun, so that they were not able to look at him because of its brightness. And when he came nearer, they knew it was Lugh Lav Fauda of the Long Hand that had come back to them, and along with him were the riders of the Shee from the land of promise, and his own faster brothers, the sons of Manannam, Sgoith Graigal of the White Flower, and Goadni Grum Suliach of the Blue-Eyed Spear, and Sin Sindarig of the Red Ring, and Donald Donruv of the red-brown hair. And it is the way Lugh was. He had Manannam's horse, the Ovar of the One Main, under him, that was as swift as the naked cold wind of spring, and the sea was the same as the dry land to her, and the rider was never killed off of her back. And he had Manannam's breastplate on him, that kept whoever was wearing it from wounds, and a helmet on his head with 2 beautiful precious stones set in the front of it, and 1 at the back. And when he took it off, his forehead was like the sun on a dry summer day. And he had Manannam's sword, the Fergathach, the answerer, at his side, and no one that was wounded by it would ever get away alive. And when the sword was bared in battle, no man that saw it coming against him had any more strength than a woman in childbirth. And the troop came to where the King of Ireland was with the Tuatha Dé Danann, and they welcomed one another. And they were not long there till they saw a surly, slovenly troop coming towards them, 9 times 9 of the messengers of the Fomor, that were coming to ask rents and taxes from the men of Ireland. And the names of the 4 that were the hardest and the most cruel were Ian and Eithfich and Cron and Compere. And there was such great dread of those 4 on the Tuatha Dé Danann that not one of them would so much as punish his own son or his foster son without leave from them. They came up then to where the King of Ireland was with the riders of the Shee, and the king and all of the Tuatha Dé Danann stood up before them. And Lugh of the Long Hand said, "Why do you rise up before that surly, slovenly troop, when you did not rise up before us?" "It is needful for us to do that," said the king, "for if there was but a child of us sitting before them, they would not think that too small a cause for killing him." "By my word," said Lugh, "there is a great desire coming on me to kill them." "That is a thing that would bring harm to us," said the king, "for we would meet our own deaths and destruction through it." It is too long a time you have been under their oppression, said Lugh. And with that he started up and made an attack on the Fomart, killing and wounding them till he made an end of 8 nines of them, but he let the last 9 go under the protection of Nauda, the king. And I would kill you along with the others, he said, but I would sooner see you go with messages to your own country than for my people to go, for fear that they might get an ill treatment. So the 9 went back then till they came to Lugh, where the men of the Fomar were, and they told them the story from beginning to end, and how a young well-featured lad had come into Ireland and had killed all the tax-gatherers but themselves. And it is the reason he let us off, they said, that we might tell you the story ourselves. Do you know who the young man is? Said Balor of the Evil Eye when he heard it then. I know well, said Cithrian, his wife. He is the son of your daughter and mine, and it was foretold, she said, that from the time he would come into Ireland, we would never have power there ever again. Then the chief men of the Fomar went into a council. Aeb, son of Nead, and Sensheb, grandson of Nead, and Saithal Sarmor, and Leith, son of Lobias, and the 9 poets of the Fomar that had learning and the gifts of foreknowledge, and Lobias the Druid himself, and Balor himself, and his 12 white-mouthed sons, and Cithrian of the crooked teeth, his queen. And it was just at that time Bress and his father Elthan were come to ask help of the Fomart, and Bress said, I myself will go to Ireland, and 7 great battalions of the riders of the Fomar along with me, and I will give battle to this Ildanach, this master of all arts, and I will strike his head off and bring it here to you, to the Queen of Bervi. It would be a fitting thing for you to do that, said they all. Let my ships be made ready for me, said Bress, and let food and provisions be put in them. So they made no delay, but went and got the ships ready, and they put plenty of food and drink in them, and the 2 swift Luths were sent out to gather the army to Bress. And when they were all gathered, they made ready their armour and their weapons, and they set out for Ireland. And Balor, the king, followed them to the harbour, and said, Give battle to that Ildanach, and strike his head off, and tie that island that is called Ireland to the back of your ships, and let the destroying waters take its place, and put it on the north side of Lough, and no one of the men of Dea will follow it there to the end of life and time. And they pushed out their ships and put up their painted sails, and went out from the harbour on the untilled country, on the ridges of the wide-lying sea, and they never turned from their course till they came to the harbour of Esdara. And from that they set out an army through West Connacht, and destroyed it altogether through and through. And the king of Connacht at that time was Bovdarg, son of the Dagda.